Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wall Street per Main Street podcast. And today's special guest is a returning guest, Ziad Abdelnour. He is the president and CEO of Blackhawk Partners. He's also the founder and president of the Financial Policy Council. Ziad, thank you for joining me again.
My pleasure, Mo.
Well, I want to start off this podcast by talking about the conflict that's going on in Russia and Ukraine. There's a lot of people in this country that don't understand why the U.S. is involved in this conflict, since a lot of people think Ukraine doesn't offer anything to the U.S. and vice versa. So I wanted to ask you your thoughts about this conflict, and do you think this conflict could be a potential black swan event that could derail the market and the dollar, especially the petrodollar?
I mean, it really depends on our involvement, U.S. involvement. Russia's annexation of Crimea and their possible future incursions into eastern Ukraine could definitely reshape the geopolitical map of Europe and definitely derail all kinds of cooperation between Moscow and the West for years to come. I think Ukraine is a long way away from stability. After suffering a violent change of government and an annexation of a portion of its territory by, a vastly bigger and more powerful neighbor. I think the presidential election, which is scheduled to take place in a couple of months, given the short time left, to prepare, runs the risk of being very poorly organized and plagued by lots of irregularities, that could threaten its legitimacy. Putin has for sure been signaling for some time now that he sees re-establishing Russian influence over the political and economic development of neighboring countries, via the establishment of a Eurasian Union as the centerpiece of his third term in office. I really think the immediate question right now is how to diminish Russia's ability to threaten its neighbors. It's not going to be easy, and the situation of the West, is obviously in a state of flux at the moment. I would really expect, the U.S. and EU to continue to attempt in the near term to deter Moscow through the threat of additional sanctions, but I don't know how much these sanctions are going to work. These threats are not the magic bullet by any means, which really raises the broader question of how effectively a divided West can mobilize a variety of tools to limit the new threat Russia poses to peace and stability in this very important region. I mean, I really think we have a long and very unsettled period ahead of us.
And also, in the past couple of days, Russia and Iran is working on a barter deal for oils in return for goods. The U.S. is not liking that because now they're operating outside the petrodollar system. So, Russia is also threatening to dump the dollar. Do you think they'll ever do that, or are they just bluffing?
No, I don't think they're bluffing. Look, Putin is a very smart guy. He's been around the block, extremely experienced. He was head of KGB, so he knows how to gather intel, to use intel. He does things at the proper time. He did all this after seeing the fiasco that we had with Syria, after Obama drew all these red lines and never executed on them. So if he said if he can contain Bashar al-Assad of Syria, how can he contain Vladimir Putin of Russia? I mean, everything is timed with Putin. So he may do anything. It really depends on the time, depending on what he gets away with. This guy has huge ambitions, and he wants to reestablish Russia as a major player and power broker in the region, and he has already, and he is already, and he has very bad. He has lots of hostile friends who are very hostile to the United States. Everything is possible. Absolutely everything is possible. Look, as I used to say before, and I say it all the time again, the United States is not anymore the sun, it's just a planet. This is not in the 1980s where Reagan was in power, where U.S. foreign policy was very different, where our stand in the world was very different, and we were not at that time bankrupt and holding $20 trillion in debt. So the whole situation has changed. You can't compare the U.S. now versus 10 years ago versus 30 years ago. So what we can do now is very limited compared to what we could do 10 or 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, and it looked like the U.S. is very vulnerable due to their bad fiscal and monetary policy, because they don't want any of their country dumping a dollar, because they know that would be bad for the economy and also the currency as well. So it shows you just how vulnerable the U.S. economy is,
Exactly.
and you know, yeah. So let's shift gears here and talk about the energy markets. So there's a report that came out back in November 2013 from the IEA, and they say that the U.S. will surpass Russia and Saudi Arabia, the world top oil producer, by 2015, and be close to becoming energy self-sufficient in the next 2 decades. Now, do you believe the U.S. can achieve energy independence due to the shale boom and other technology advances in the oil industry?
Look, it really depends how you define energy independence. The United States is a world leader, that's for sure. And the nations of the world look to the United States for leadership. And really, energy independence is, for me, all about world leadership. Now, a few economists out there, and all kinds of advocates of global free trade, have voiced a narrow view of energy independence. They're claiming that it will mean a retreat from global economic interdependence, a direction that would disrupt the global free market and lead America towards, isolation. I don't think this view is true. I really think the U.S. does not need zero foreign oil imports to be energy independent. There is no reason. There is no reason to end all imports from Canada and Mexico and whatever. Energy independence is not about protectionism. Energy independence does not mean closed borders of economic isolation. I really think energy independence will be achieved by producing abundant and affordable alternative transportation fuels, through advanced technology that will enable all countries to do the same. American energy independence will lead to global energy independence. Look at it today. The world consumes today over 85 million barrels of oil every day, which is over 30 billion barrels a year. Now, the USA alone consumes over 20 million barrels a day, which is over 7 billion barrels a year. At $100 a barrel, the global petroleum revenue exceeds like $3 trillion a year. Now, the development of alternative fuels on scale large enough to free the global economy from dependence on oil, will create an immense shift within the economic foundation of the world. I really think American energy independence will create hundreds of billions of dollars and the new wealth resulting in new jobs, etc. At the end of the day, American energy independence will really be achieved when all the cars, trucks, and buses on U.S. highways, boats, ships, barges on U.S. waterways, aircraft flying U.S. airways, trains on U.S. railways, are powered by transportation fuel made in the USA from non-petroleum U.S. resources. See what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree. And also, with the technology advances in alternative energy, solar energy is becoming cheaper. Not as energy efficient as fossil fuel, but it is getting cheaper. A lot of people are starting to use it for their own home. So there's a lot of technology out there that people can use for energy other than fossil fuel, and that hopefully that'll expand in the next decade or so that the U.S. can reduce their need for oil and fossil fuel for energy.
Look, the key at the end of the day is not to confuse energy independence with protectionism. It's not about protectionism. So there's no reason we can be independent and create all the stuff without really becoming a protective country, So that's very important to discern.
And if we had more free market in this country, then I think energy industry would be further along than it is right now. But unfortunately, a lot of regulation that the government imposed on the industry, which kind of killed innovation and hurt production.
Absolutely. And I'm afraid, however, with this administration, we're going to have more regulations, not less.
So I want to shift gears here and talk about the high oil prices that we have today. Now, there's a report out there saying that $600 billion annually is needed in CapEx in order for the oil industry to keep up with the demand. Now, you combine that with the depleting rate of conventional oil wells. Do you think the high oil prices are here to stay?
High oil prices are here to stay, not just because of that, but because of also instability of oil flows, the situation in the Middle East, the situation in Ukraine and Europe right now add to the situation of the Middle East. All the troubles in the world is in countries that are very rich in oil. Whether Iran or Russia or the Middle East, Saudi, the Gulf, etc. So that's where all the trouble is, and all these countries have huge oil resources. So it's not like it's happening in Australia or some country in New Zealand. This is really happening in the heart of the oil flows in the world, from Russia to Europe and from the Middle East all over the world. So, anybody who tells you that this is not going to affect oil prices does not live on this planet. Of course it will.
And also, a lot of the governments need higher oil prices because they rely on the tax revenue from the oil industry to fund their campaign promises. Like in Russia, here in the U.S., in the Middle East, a lot of the campaign promises would need the oil prices to stay at least above $80 in order for them to fund their programs and social welfare programs.
Absolutely. Look, I've always been, and I still am, very bullish on commodities. Oil, gold, all kinds of commodities. This is an age whereby the biggest players are going to be in the commodities market. Even the private equity firms right now are going after this market. They shun away from this market for years. Now they're going, very aggressively after this market. I'm sure you've seen the recent statement by the Carlyle Group saying basically that there are $300 billion of major oil company assets for sale. So when you start seeing, the vulture money, the private equity money, the smart money going after this, this is going to be the beginning of a huge boom of restructuring in the oil industry. Oil is going to be, most of the oil plays were so far not very much institutionalized. I think they're going to be more and more institutionalized with more private equity money and hedge fund money going after this market, not just trading it, but also buying assets and shuffling assets.
And Ziad, I agree with you there. So, for last topic of the podcast, I want to talk about entrepreneurship, which is the backbone of this country, which made this country great. And we're seeing a lot of momentum in the tech industry and also in the shale industry in terms of entrepreneurship and startups. I want to start by asking you, do you believe entrepreneurship can save America with all these startup companies in the tech industry and the shale industry, or are we in a path of no return and trying to save this economy from collapse due to endless money printing and bad fiscal policy?
Look, I don't think that the American dream is dead. I think the American dream is alive and well more than ever. Granted, the economy is not helping, shore up everyone's confidence, but but I really feel that the American public is resilient and optimistic. Entrepreneurs are now going, it's becoming much more in vogue to be entrepreneur. A lot of the best and brightest people who graduate from even the top Ivy League schools are not going on Wall Street anymore, but have decided to be entrepreneurs, have decided to take control of their lives. And I think this new generation will have a huge impact, going forward, whereby most of the, brain power in this country years ago used to go on Wall Street or work for corporate America. A lot of people have been disenchanted by what corporate America can offer, a lot of the scandals, a lot of the fines to the regulators, a lot of the stuff happening out there. I'm sure you read it every day. So, because of that, I'm optimistic. But I think we're not out of the woods yet. I think it's going to get much worse before they get better. Medium, longer term, I'm very optimistic about this country. There's a huge potential. We have restructured a lot of the industries. Now we're going after the oil industry, which is the biggest of all worldwide, which defines all the geopolitics. But to come back to the point, but I think for the shorter term, at least for the next 3 years, until this administration is gone or replaced, there's going to be a battle, and the battle still rages between the wealth takers and the wealth creators, or the entrepreneurs, between government and the entrepreneurs. Wealth creation is still a bad word, a bad connotation, unfortunately. But I think we're learning fast, and I think I'm optimistic for the longer term.
And despite the tough economic condition that's going on, we're still seeing entrepreneurship thrive in this environment, especially in the app industry, where even though a lot of competition, there's still jobs being created in that industry, and a lot of them are being bought out by big tech companies like Facebook.
Yeah.
Even though the valuation might be a little too high, despite of that, I agree with you. The American dream is still alive despite the tough economic condition. So
yeah.
I wanted to ask, so your company, Blackhawk Partners, invest in startup companies, and I wanted to ask you which industries entrepreneurs, and small businesses are doing well in, and asking you for capital. Are there any specific industry that you think are doing well right now, other than the tech industry that I just mentioned?
Look, number one, we don't invest in startups, no. We invest in established companies and scale them very aggressively through roll-ups and by growing them organically and through acquisitions. So that's one. Two, we really don't invest in industries. As I mentioned to you in a previous interview, we rather invest in people. We back people, operators with track record, etc. It doesn't really matter the industry, the geography, the location, and all that kind of stuff. There are entrepreneurs all over the world. There are wealth creators all over the world. We seek to find those people and provide them with all the wherewithal they need to build their companies and execute. Three, regarding what industry technology, as I said, we are not industry agnostic. We are industry agnostic, but we really go after the two industries we focus mostly on are the energy sector, oil and gas industry, and technology and technology enablers. Technology and oil are the two industries for me that move the world and that are moving the world. And it's going to be like this for some time to go. So at the end of the day, it's finding the right operators who can build billion-dollar companies. This is the kind of people we go after. People who have the wherewithal, the vision, the resilience to buy to build billion-dollar companies, and there are a lot of them around. The world, at the end of the day, is turning more and more as a global village. Flows of capital are going worldwide. There is no corner of the world right now that doesn't have access to technology, and where the capital is not going, even in the remote places in Africa. I think Africa, by the way, is going to be the next boom in the next 20 to 30 years, Africa is going to be absolutely booming. It's a good place. It's a good place to go. So, I mean, there's not a country in the world right now that's not going through all these flows, and we monitor all on a very regular basis, and always look to back the right entrepreneurs.
And it's important to back good management. You can have a great product, but if you have bad management, then the company's going to collapse.
You said it. You're right on the money.
And that's hard to find. It's hard to find people that know what they're doing and they're good managers and know how to manage the people and deliver products that are good for the society. Do you agree with that?
Hard to find, but you know what? I've learned over the years to size up people very quickly. It's an art, it's a science. That's what it takes. It's really, after all, it's all a people's business. Whatever you're doing, whether you're fighting for a cause, whether you're building a company, whether you're going into politics, into business, it's all about people, the integrity of the people, their know-how, their vision, their assertiveness, their confidence, their everything. You put them to the test, you see how they react, you ask them the right questions, you see how they answer. That's what it takes. It's all about people, all about people. I mean, even when transacting business, you know, I cannot do business with people I've never met, I've never seen face to face, I've never, I haven't watched them carefully. Interact with other people, do business. It's all about people. It's all about people.
And I agree with you there. So, yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming on for a podcast. If people want to find out more about what you do, where can they go? And also talk about the Financial Policy Council as well.
FinancialPolicyCouncil.org, www.financialpolicycouncil.org, or BlackhawkPartners.com, www.blackhawkpartners.com. This is both, my outfits. One of them is a nonprofit. The other one is the profit organization.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time, and hopefully you can come back on again soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Mo. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much for your time.